Alright, so yesterday we were doing Daf Beis and Beis and we stopped where the Daf ended, but we were in the middle of a heated back and forth about Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim. We were talking about a sukkah that was higher than 20 amas, with Rabbi Yehuda saying it's kosher, more than 20 amas. Rabbi Yehuda says kosher, the Chachamim say pasal. And we had different explanations as to why that would be, with nafkaminas, that if the reason would be because you don't notice the schach, well, if the wall has reached all the way to the top, you wouldn't notice it, so even the chachamim would say it's kosher. Kshei really? And that was Rabbah. We also had a Zera who says because the shade of the schach is not going to hit you once it's too tall. And we had Rava who said it's too tall, so it's like permanence. And we had said various differences in halacha based on what that reasoning would be. If it's the same way that wall's reaching the schach, according to Rabbah, would be kosher, even if it was more than 20, even according to the chachamim. According to Rabbi Zera, if the sukkah was wider, it would be kosher. Kshera. Why do I keep saying that? Okay, because I've been yeshivishalized. Okay, now let's see. So we had a story that the rabbis went to visit Queen Helni in her sukkah, and Rabbi Yehuda is bringing this as a raya against the Chachamim. So obviously, this is their machlokes. So whatever the story with Queen Helmi what actually was, would be the case in which they argue. And Rabbi Yehuda says to the Chachamim, they visited her in her over 20 amma sukkah, and they were fine with it. So, I'm like, why would you say it's no good? So what are we saying? The Gemara is saying that, so if the Gemara had just said, it's great according to Rabbah that the issue of over 20 is, you don't notice it, and if the walls reach the schach, there's no machlekes, but by the queen, the walls didn't reach the schach because she needs something to be, that way it can cool off. But, Ella, now we're at the top of Gimel and Aleph. Ella, Lemanta Amar, Besukkah Ketana Machlekes. If the Machlekes is only by a tiny sukkah, that's minimum shear. Besukkah Ketana, the queen is going to be in such a tiny sukkah, like Rashi. I don't know if I did the Rashi. Mishum Avir Ruch Shehu Sheleb B'Mneachem. Ela Damar B'Ktana Pligi Av B'Gedola Filu Rabbanan Moedu V'Chidarka Shel Malka V'Alei Na'ariseu Misharsehu V'Subim Ima. The queen is going to have all of her entourage with her, so why in the world? How can you say that that Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim would agree by a wide sukkah if the queen most certainly had a wide sukkah? Okay. Amar Rabba Bar of Ada. Okay, it's a sukkah that was made in lots of little compartments, chambers. And, alright, so what would that look like? Meaning we're assuming, we're going to say like this. Definitely the queen, we are saying right now, was not in a sukkah that was this narrow. But maybe it was a much larger sukkah that was compartmentalized. All right, I guess I'll just do it like this. All right. So now we already have some compartmentalization going over here, and I'm assuming we would continue this in the other dimension also. So now this sukkah is made out of lots of little sukkahs, and it's possible that her servants were in the other ones. Which the Gemara is like, okay, shkayach, you answered the question, but that's not going to work. What, you think the queen is going to be in this weird sukkah that you made up? Amar Rav Ashi, the kitonios sheba. Sagt Rashi, kitonios sheba, sukkah gedela. Ibnei Mesibai Seah, v'kitonis ketana b'seichel etznius, v'kitonis yasva, v'avagad psula, v'ech b'slan, v'isha p'tura min ha'sukkah. Rashi's already going weiter in the Gemara. So what we're saying is, no. It wasn't this abnormal sukkah over here. Here, let's broaden things. What's the best way to do this? I may regret this, but let's see what happens. Let's knock out the middles. What just happened? And this is not working. Oh, I see why. Annoying. Alright. What we're doing right now, this is the long way to do it, but it might be ultimately the fastest. I'm removing a lot of these little chambers that she had within her sukkah. Boing, boing. Boing, boing. Boing, boing. And boing, boing. And now, okay, now we can do it. Alright, so now, oh, this is weird. Okay. Okay, so now we're making the royal sukkah a lot larger. That's great. You'll notice that I left one of the chambers over there. There's a reason for that. Also, obviously, the royal sukkah it's not just going to be larger in one dimension. Oh wow, and now it's going all the way out into the street. Let's move the whole thing out of the street. And let's give this super tall sukkah adequate schach. There. Beautiful. Okay. So now we have a sukkah. This is normal for the queen. And we're saying that she was in a little chamber, which, if the whole purpose of it is privacy, probably it wasn't facing out like this. Let's modify this. And we'll make her chamber like over here. Okay. Like this. Okie doke. And let's move it over a little bit. Hey. There. Much better. Okay, so now her chamber is over here in the back. She's got privacy. She was in that. And now we're trying to defend the opinion that says the Machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim is only by a tiny sukkah. Yet, Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim have their Machlekes even by, seemingly, a queen in a sukkah. Yeah, it was a queenly sukkah, but she was in a smaller chamber. And the Gemara continues, Rabbanon Savri, the Chachamim held, that her sons were not in the tiny chamber, they were in the regular sukkah. And for privacy, she was in the smaller one. That's why the rabbis of the story didn't say anything to her, because even if her sukkah had issues and was psula, but she's betur min sukkah, and if she has children who are obligated in the sukkah, they were in the outer one. Rabbi Yehuda says that her sons were with her, and still they didn't say anything to her. Okay. Meaning the rabbis didn't, and that's Rabbi Yehuda's right, his opinion. Great. Rashi. Rabbi Yehuda Savar, Vim Taimar, Rav Chanan, one could look to Bish'in, Machzak, Zalkei, Rav Bishachanai. Hacha, Kevin the Banel Gaba, Havia. Kevin the Banel Gaba, Havia, Lagadoila, my Debarabana, on my Raya, Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, so I was explaining the sugya really according to Rav Chanan already with this tiny chamber. But really, it would seem the Gemara was really asking on the Amar that it's 4x4 and saying the queen would have been a much larger sukkah than that. And Rashi's asking now, according to Rav Chanan, that it's the teeny sukkah that's only 7 tfachim by 7 tfachim. Then how? Well, if her kids were in there, then bam, that's the end of Rav Chanan, because just her sons. How could the Chachamim say her sons were? Wait, no. Rabbi Yehuda is saying to the Chachamim her sons were in there, and you see it's Kshera. Once you can squeeze all of her sons in there, then it's much larger than that shear. But now, wow. Rashi's first teretz is to cram them into a very small area. Rashi says no. According to Rav Chanan, this is a kasha. We're going to see that the minimum shear sukkah is only 7 tvachim. You're not going to be able to cram even most of her 7 sons into 7 hands breadths. And no. So Rav Chanan bar Rava, we're saying, is officially upgefregelt. Okay. Weiter gegangen. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak. Halacha tzricha shemachzak es rosh of rubai v'sholchana. A sukkah needs to hold. It needs to be big enough to hold his head and most of the person, most of their body, and their table. And that's what Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak says. Amar Rav Abba. Amar Rabbi Abba said to Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak, "Come on, Beis Shammai." What? I'm scandalized. I'm shocked. You're saying like Beis Shammai? Beis Shammai is like Rashi dik Beis Hillel Beis Shulchan Ekil Kamam Beperak Hayashen. Beis Hillel says you don't need your table to be in the sukkah. Ela Kaman. To which Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak was like, yeah, who else? Ikadamri Amar Rabbi Abba. Another way of the story is that Rabbi Abba said to Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak, Amar Loch Mani. Who said that? Beis Shammai v'lo tazuz mina. This is Beis Shammai, and don't budge from it. Okay. So now, this is assuming some things which haven't really been spoken out so well. That Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel have machlokes about someone. He is in the sukkah, and his table is not. That's their actual machlokes, and now we'll see what's going on. Maskeflar of Nachman bar Yitzchak. Of Nachman bar Yitzchak asks, whoa, who says that the machlokes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel about someone's table not in the sukkah is about the minimum size of a sukkah? Mimai de Beis Shammai Beis Hillel b'sukkah katana pligi. You're assuming that they're arguing about a tiny sukkah, which I have made. All right, so here we have a guy. He is in a very tiny sukkah. Not all of him is in there. Ooh, is it most of him? I think so. Maybe we should move him a little bit more in. He still has room at his table. All right. So now the guy is Reishai Virubai Vishalchane in a sukkah. And if his table wasn't in the sukkah, meaning the sukkah was so small it wouldn't even fit his table, Beis Shammai says no good, Beis Hillel says good. Says Rav Nachman, whoa! Who says that's what we're talking about? Maybe the machlekes is about a large sukkah. Ukagai, and what would the case be? Yosef Apuma Dimitalusa. Shout out to Reb Tzvi Liber. Maybe we're talking about where the guy is sitting actually in a humongous sukkah. Here, let's take this guy. I'm gonna destroy this sukkah over here, and let's take the guy and his sukkah and clone it. Hey, Windows, what are you doing? Okay, we're gonna. Oh, that was me, not Windows. Interesting. Okay, so we are going to clone the guy's sukkah, and now it's not going to be a teeny tiny sukkah. Oh no! It's first of all, I am going to take the sukkah and I'm going to... Oops, now he's popping out the back. So we're going to move him a little bit more in. And that's okay because the sukkah is now going to be much larger. Oops, needed to do that one more time. Okay, now the guy's sukkah is huge. And the problem, here, let's add some more schach for it. Wow, schach is pretty dense. All right, that's good. So the guy is, and let's give him, make sure his sukkah has another wall. Let's just make sure it's kosher enough. All right, he's in a great, wonderful sukkah, and I will also spare him the agony of having his table piercing him. His table actually does not need to be so absurdly narrow, and it also, he has more space. But the guy chose to eat in the sukkah, the schach is not really reaching the end. I don't want to make problems with that. So let's move the table a little bit back. Okay, here we go. He is in the sukkah, and his table isn't. It's Dilma. Maybe they're arguing about a sukkah. He's sitting at the entrance of his sukkah, and his table is inside of his house. House meaning not the sukkah. Obviously we could just continue the guy's sukkah and let it be at this point his regular house. And here, let's housify that. Let's give it some bricks. Let's see. All right, there. See, now it's his house. Why does he have bricks inside of his house? I don't know. Whatever. Okay, and obviously his house does not have a roof of schach. It has a regular roof. So now the guy is eating in his sukkah. His table is inside of the house, and maybe that's the machlokes b'shamay Yisrael. Nothing to do with size. It's not about does your sukkah fit your table. It's about is your table in the sukkah. Da-dum. The Beis Shammai holds, because we're going to make a gzeira, a decree. We're going to say he's not yotzei the mitzvah because shemi yimoshech achar shulchanai. Maybe he will end up being drawn after his table, and most of him won't be in the sukkah anymore. Beis Hillel says we don't make such a gzeira. This is Arav Nachman's kasha that maybe Beis Shammai Beis Hillel have no machlokes at all about the ashir sukkah. V'deikanami, and you can see this in their machlokes. Diktani mishay reshiv rubai b'sukkah, someone who he and most of him were in the sukkah. V'shulchanai. Whoa. Hang on. Oh, really? Notifications? Oh my gosh. It's a good game, Lamaisa, but it should not be bothering me with notifications. I assisted the developer in testing out the game and trying to sort out bugs. Okay. Diktani. Rav Nachman saying you can see in that Mishnah that it's talking about a person whose table is out of the sukkah. Diktani. What's it say in the Mishnah? Someone whose head, most of him, is in the sukkah, and his table was inside of his house. Beis Shammai says pasul. Interesting. Beis Hillel says kosher. And if this is about the size of a sukkah, it should have spoken about whether it holds his table, not about where it was. Rashi. K'bei Shammai, Dik'bei Silale, Bei Shalchonek, Lamam Perakayoshim, V'dekanami Garsina, and this is Rav Nachman, V'dekanami Kidele Kamon, V'gedoyla Pligi, that's talking about a large sukkah, V'yoshev ala Pesach, V'bechotzi, and he is at the outer entrance, V'reishei Mushkav L'Seicha, and his head is in the sukkah. V'shulchana lifnei gufay babayis, and his table is in front of his body. And midiktani, Rav Nachman saying, it sounds like that's the machlekes, because what does it say in that Mishnah? Mitani gabi plugta, like it says by that machlekes, mishehaya, someone who was. It's his setup that's the issue. Or the sukkah, not about how big the sukkah was. To which the Gemara shoots back. Over sukkah katan, or maybe it's not the Gemara, maybe it is Shmuel Bar Yitzchak. Over sukkah katana like pligi. What you're saying? Bei Shammai, Beis Hillel don't also argue about the shear of a sukkah. That the machlekes is not also about a sukkah that can or can't hold a table. That what is the minimum size for it? Ve'atanya machzakas roishev ruboy v'shulchanai ksheira. If it holds his head, most of him, and his table, the sukkah is ksheira. Rabbi Omer arba ames, and we have Rabbi who says, nope, it has to be 4 amos by 4 amos, which is a lot bigger. That would be 4 amos by 4 amos would be, yeah, it's actually, I'm just going to make a square that's 4 by 4. There. That would be 4 amos by 4 amos that the sukkah would have to be ksheira minimum according to Rabbi. And now we're going to bring in another brisa. V'tanya idach Rabbi Omer kol sukkah she'ein bo arba ames psula. Sounds like Rabbi again. Any sukkah that isn't 4 amos by 4 amos is no good. V'chachamim ma'imrim. The chachamim say no. Afilu ein machzakas ela roishe v'rubai ksheira. It's ksheira as long as it holds his head and most of him. No mention of the table. V'ilu shulchanai like katani. It doesn't mention his table. Kashin adadi. It's a stira. It's a contradiction. These chachamim argue on Rabbi unless it's not the same chachamim. It must be that those who are arguing on Rabbi, the second time around is Beis Hillel. That's why I don't mention the table. The first time with the table is Beis Shammai. Boom. That'll be a raya, not like Rav Nachman, that there's at least also a machlekes about the shear of a sukkah, the minimum size. Zokt Rashi. Hang on, where am I in Rashi? I'm not sure if I did Rashi Vim Isa, which was really going on before in Rav Nachman. Vim Isa, the Bishur the Sukkah Pligi, listen, Sukkah Machlakas, Rosh and now we're flipping it on its head and we're saying that the Machlakas is also going to be by a small sukkah. The machlekes is what is the minimum size for a sukkah. And Mar Zutra is going to say, we also have a riot to that. The machlekes is that. Mar Zutra, you can also see that in the Mishnah. Shammai says psula, Beis Hillel says ksheira. V'im Isa, and if the machlekes was about the status of the person eating in the sukkah, and it's about a larger one, then Beis Shammai Omrim la yotza, Beis Hillel Omrim yotza mibayla. It should have spoken about whether he was yotzei or not. Zok Rashi Omrim Marzot Dekanami the Bektana Pligi v'shur the Paisin Machshirin. Sorry, Omrim Marzot Dekanami the Bektana Pligi uv'shiura because Paisin Machshirin al Karcha Chasukkah Mahadri. Those words are going back on the sukkah. Ella legarsinon v'chasinon le'elam tarti pligi zakt rash zakt the Gemara weiter velakasha mishahaya. So there's tension here. There's a kasha. On one hand, it speaks about paisin and machshirin, which sure sounds like this case. It also says mishahaya, that it's about the guy, which sounds like this case. Le'elam tarti pligi. The Gemara says no, it's going to be a machlekes about both of them. Pligi b'sukkah katano, pligi b'sukkah gadol. Like, give me a machlekes by a small sukkah about what the shiur of a sukkah is, and a machlekes by a big sukkah, and it's a machlekes about are you yotze when your thing is when your table's in the house. And you're going to have to say that it's missing something in the middle. And here's how you should say it over. Someone who had most of himself in the sukkah, but his table was in the house. And this is a question of the person and his action. Shammai says, no good. Beis Hillel says he is yitzei. And now there's another machlekes. A sukkah that can only hold his head and most of him and not his table. Beis Shammai says the sukkah is no good. Beis Hillel says it is good. Okay. Period. Now we're going to bring in a brisa, which is going to say a whole long list of things about a house. Man tan rabbanon. Who said this brisa that's coming up? Bias, a house she'ein ba arba amais al arba amais, a house that is not 4 amais by 4 amais. We're going to say is not considered a house in halacha. So, we don't need to build it in the middle of the street. All right. So this is a house that's exactly 4 by 4. And I'm going to make the walls shrink into it. And I'll do that again just to be yotze all the days. Okay. Now this house is... What? What just happened? I really thought I made this house like normal. I don't know why it was like upside down or something weird. All right, here. 3.9 by 3.9. Again, the house is flipped that way. There's something very weird going on over here. And instead of... Where did it go? This is so weird. Okay, I'm going to build the house in the street, and we can take it out of the street later. The house is 3.9 by 3.9. There's our house, and we're going to make it a little bit smaller like that. We're going to give it walls, and we're going to give it a roof, and then we're going to talk about why it's actually not a house. Well, also, it doesn't have a door. Let's give it a door also. What? Why is this not a solid group? Huh? Okay. Oh, now it should be. Let's take a bite out of this house. Okay, great. There, now we have our house, and of course it needs a roof. I'm just going to give it a rather boring flat roof for right now. Oh, actually, no, it's good for it to have a flat roof for this Gemara. Let's see. All right. Here is our house. And now, it's less than 4 by 4 amas. It's actually not a house. Let's see what the implications of that are. A house that isn't 4 cubits by 4 cubits. Pater min mezuzah. There's no obligation to put a mezuzah up in the entryway. Notice there's a flat roof. People can run around and fall off. There's a mitzvah to put a fence around the roof of your house. This doesn't qualify as a house. It cannot get tsura'as, meaning even if there is tsura'as in it, it's not a bias that a Kohen would come and say it is impure. And if it is in a walled city, then there's no such thing as buyers keepers after a year, because it doesn't qualify as a house. Someone built it and went to war. Who has built a house and has not yet lived in it? He can go home. Me? I built that. Yeah, it's not a house. You can stay. And you cannot do an... I'm vacillating because the Gemara later on is going to talk about the details of this, but you can't do an Eruv in it or with it. V'mishtatfin boy, and you can't do. It can't be part of a shitufei mavois, the joining of a mavoi. I don't know. Ve'ein manichin boy eruv, and you can't put the eruv in it, which when the eruv needs to be in one of the houses. Let's just do some Rashi over here. But min amazazokal mafarish time lekamon ve'inei nechlat ela pedei lo olam yetzi biyovim legaoloi kishar karka b'lei binyan. And also we'll go back in the every year. Okay, so now here we go, full blown Erevin again. Zog Drashi. I remember this. Okay, here we go. Derech Batei Amlias Psuchim Lechatzer Rabbi Batim Psuchim Lechatzer Achas. You have houses. Rashi says harbe, right? Minimum 2, but it could go up to a lot. They're all open to a chatzer. And they go out from the chatzer through the door. Now they're in the mavoi, and from there they go into the Rishus Harabim. Nimtza chatzer Rishus Lekulon. The chatzer is an area for all the people who live in those houses. Va'abatim Golechem Yochel Lebailov. And the house, each person's house is his house. And there is a rabbinical decree, you can't bring from something that's only your domain into something that's everybody's without mixing everything together into one rishos. That you should make all of the domains mixed together, that as if they're all one area. So this whole chatzar over here will be a domain of all the houses in it. How do you do that? V'tiknu, the rabbis enacted, each house in the courtyard is going to donate a loaf of bread to this collection. V'kulan b'sal echad, and all of it will go into one basket, which is holding everybody's bread. And it goes into one of the houses. V'nasim kulam ki'ilu darn ba'is, and it's as if they're all living in that house. It's like they're all one big mixed together thing, but a house, this pathetic house that isn't even 4 amais by 4 amais, does not need to give bread to join the yard, because even if it doesn't, it's not going to make problems for the yard that it didn't join the Eruv, and they're going to be usher, no such thing, because it doesn't qualify as a house. Rashi continues, Al kol chatzar hapsuch lemavoy. Any chatzar that's open up into a mavoy. Kederach shetiknu erev lebate chatzar. The same way there's a takana that the houses of the chatzar needed to fuse together to all become one big chatzar thing. So all these different chatzeros have to fuse together to all be permitted to bring things from their chatzeros to the mavoy. Shu noisnim b'shitov, that they all join it. V'im bayis katan zeh pesuach lechatzer shebe mavoy. So theoretically, v'ein bayis achar pesuach la im ishtatven bay and shich litim b'shitov. Ooh, interesting. So if there is another, here, let's go and get that house. Let's get this pathetic non-house over here. So Ray Rashi is explaining the Gemara is that if you would have here, let's say this. Before I do that, this is a component. So here, let's get rid of that and that and that and that. Okay, well now this chutzner is empty, so it's not going to need to donate something to the general shituf. And here comes this house, which isn't a house. I don't know why. Everything is fritzing. It's kind of weird. I'm trying to figure out if there's a normal way to get this. I just had it and I lost it. There. Oh, something just clicked. Okay, so now we have this house, which is less than 4 amos by 4 amos in a chutzner. It doesn't join the Eruv. We don't care. It doesn't count as a house. Goodbye. And after the Eruv was collected from all the different houses in the chutzner, you can't put the Eruv into this house. It's just a non-house. Bling. We're turning to Gimel Amud Beis. Ooh, another blast to the past. Let's see. This is also something that we had in Eruvin. And I'm going to pull open that file so we can take a look at that. I'll just start with Rashi. We have a Mishnah in Mesechas Eruvin. Let's just get this. Open file location. Let's look at extra large icons, and I'll just see if I notice that file. Oh, that's the one we just did. Ooh. Oh, yes, that was Og Melech HaBashan dead in the house. All right, I'm going to guess our best bet is this one's over here. Oh! And we got Joshua Skutsky telling us that there's a lot of 2D pictures online. Okay. Take a look. Okay, so here we have various cities, and they have a tchum. Zakt Rashi. Hang on, let's see. Okay. Here, let's take a look at what Joshua said about links to other cool pictures. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Ma'iris Hadaf Yomi. Tmunas Ezer. Okay, so let's see the pictures for Daf Gimel. Okay, that's a sukkah with kitaniyos. Ooh, how regal. Here we have that guy in his sukkah. Okay. That table looks like it's a little bit more than a tefach, I gotta say. Yeah. Okay. And they skipped the pictures of the Eruvin stuff. Okay, shkayach. So, now we're talking about in A. I'm so confused. Right. It's on the other monitor. Okay, here we go. So now in Eruvin land, we have a city, and the city is going to have a tchum of 2,000 amos from the last house. So let's, if we have, this is going to be approximate, but here, let's give it 2,000 amos. 1, 2, 3. I can't. You want? Hang on, please hold. Really, you should not be interrupting. I'm gonna have to lock the door.
All I need is.
I know that, but you interrupted. Did you know that people are watching me teach Torah right now? We need to leave right now. Okay. Okie doke. So, I just gave it. Woo! Check out that 2,000 amos over here, going away from the city. You'll notice that the 2,000 amos overlapped with this city over here, which is great. Now now they are fused for. They're fused, and they can. A person starting in one can walk to the other one and keep going. That's called an ibur for the ayars. You can give a karpif to them. If each of them has 70 amos and change, which is that white box going around the city. You notice we did it for both of them, and when you expand it, you get 2,000 ames linking them. They are one. We are one. Shtei ayares hamuvdalas zumizu kuf mem aleph. Oh, I said that wrong. We're talking about no. That's it's not gonna let you. It's not gonna turn them all into one city for a tchum. That was a mistake. What's happening is that you have these two cities, and here, let's line them up. There. Just that extra area around them is just perfectly touching. So, the distance between them is 141 amos and a third. Here. I don't think I actually need to line them up for this case, but no. Perfectionism. Okay. V'yesh be'emtza bias and there is a house in the middle between them. I'm going to move this over the tiniest bit. There's like a gap. And now we're going to borrow a house and put it over here. Okay, so now we have a house over here. Bling! That house has successfully fused them. And they are one. So I say bias ke'ibur lahan. It's like their fetus. It's an extension of them. Keisha ubara shekresa boilet, like a swollen pregnant belly. And they become, because of that house, they are now like one big city. Lelon ba'achas mehen shushtein like dalat amos umayna al payim echutz lahen. That when he's counting his 2,000 amos on Shabbos from his starting place, he's going to be counting it from not just his city. If you live in one of these cities, you're not going to count it just from there. You're going to be counting it from both cities together. And from there, you would be... Oops. No. What? Okay, this is weird. But, no, this might work. What? Come on, SketchUp. Why are you doing this? Oh, I know why it's doing it. All right, whatever. The point is that when you calculate the 2,000 amos, you're doing it in all around them. Here, I'll do it like this. We'll do it like this. When you're calculating 2,000 amos, you're doing it from both of them, not just from the one that you started in. Okay. Now, why are we talking about this? Because we were learning about a house that wasn't. It was so small, it wasn't even 4 amos by 4 amos, and it is a loser. It is a non-house. And even after we write it and put it right in the middle, because it is under the shear, it does not fuse the cities. So Rashi continues. A house that's less than 4 amos is just not chashuv enough to combine them. Zot the Gemara weiter. So and brother partners, we'll see more about that, will not divide it. The norm, don't use that house to determine ownership in a chatzer. We'll see about that. So who said this? Rashi says, brothers or shutfin Rashi's. Oh, It's not Achen HaShutfen. Ve'eno Achen ve'HaShutfen Cholken Boi Zet Rashi. Ve'eno Achen Oya Cholken Boi K'sal G'day T'chashto She'en Yechel L'Lakav Zeh L'Chalk V'She'en Boi K'dei L'Zeh K'dei L'Zeh. It sounds like you can't force a Chalukah in it, which is a classic Bava Basra. So who said this whole brisa? Lema Rebbe Hivlei Rabbanon. Is this Rebbe who said by a sukkah, if it's not 4x4, it doesn't count? Lema Rebbe Hivlei Chashav Sukkah Batzim Midal Amos Lei Rabbanon Tekeichid Demachashri B'Sukkah Al Madira Hivu Adin L'Chol Mili Debayis. The Chachamim say a sukkah less than 4 amos is going to be kshera. They would also say the same thing by a house. No, the Gemara says even the Rabbanon who say a sukkah could be good less than 4 amos by 4 amos, but not by a bias. The diras arahi, sukkah is temporary dwelling. The bias, the diras kavahu, a house is permanent. The Rabbanon maidu, even the Chum would agree. The e is beidal amos adal amos dari beinchi. If it's 4 amos by 4 amos, someone would live there. V'loy loy dari beinchi, otherwise you wouldn't live there. So now we're going to go back over this brisa, which is talking about what doesn't qualify as a house. For any time, basically, it says bias in the Torah, mezuzah, ma'akeh. When I was in the Mir, there's a big sign up, a pashkavel, not in the yeshiva, like on the streets, that says, anyone who has internet is over on leisavi tayeva el beisecha. They claim to be Yashvit said this, right? State in Pasuk, leisavi tayeva el beisecha, you bring the internet into your house, you're over on that Pasuk. I was in a tiny dorm room in the Mir that did not measure 4 amos wall to wall. So I had internet, but I wasn't over on anything because it's not b'chalal bias, right? Omar Mar, potem min hamazuzah min ha'maika ve'im time min ha'goyim ve'in ha'chal b'bater ha'chayim ve'in chayzul ha'merachei amal chama. My time, the bias, ksiv, behu, bekulu. It says bias by all of them. Less than that, it's not a bias. So Rashi, bekulu, bias, ksiv, behu, mezuzah is beisacha. Ki sivne bayis chadash uvo asher loy habayis ki imkar beis meishav asher bana bayis chadash. The Gemara continues. V'im arvim by v'im mishtafim by v'im anichem by eirov. My time ad zay chazil dira. Zat Rashi hachi yasina im arvim v'im mishtafim by v'im anichem by eirov chazil dira. Oh, Rashi is continuing. Eirov chatzeres in manichem by avshivim voyes manichem by chulei. Zay chazil dira v'time of day eruva mefarish by eirovin. The reason for an Eruv is explained in Eruvin. What shiurim in the Mir was I at? I was by Rav Moshe Aaron Friedman, Be'ikr. That was Be'ikr. I was by Rav Moshe Aaron Friedman. I was other places also, but Rav Binyan was totally by him. Mishu the chazdir v'tayim de Eruva mefarish be'eruv. And the reason for an Eruv is explained in Eruvin. Mishum dira. It's about livingalizing. Everyone puts the bread into the house. It's like they all live there. And it's if the whole chutzner is that houses, but it's got to be a house that you would live in. You need a house that's livable. The guy living there also is not going to answer on everybody else because what he's doing is meaningless. Rashi said, same thing. Right? Basically, we're saying like this, that when the houses are combining, when a chutzner is joining with all the houses in it, then you can't put the eruv for the chutzner into that house, because it's too small and pathetic. But here, let's make it even smaller and patheticer. Why? So it will fit. If all the chatzeros are joining in the mavoi, so this chatzer and this chatzer and this chatzer are all joining in the mavoi, so that they all be joined, you could put the shitufei mevuos in that little pathetic house, because anyways, you put the shituf in one of the chatzeros, so it's, even if it's not a house, but it's still in the chatzer, it's in the chatzer. So Rashi, it's like chatzer without a roof. Vainami salek hekefa v'kiruyai, remove its perimeter and covering. Kamisha einai, like it ain't, cause it ain't. Nimtza shituf oime ba'avir chatzer, and the shituf is in the chatzer. It's not the shituf nisim ba'avir chatzer. Mishum to Erev HaChatzer L'tziruf HaBatim Hu L'yos Kulam Kedarim B'bayis Elchad Hilkach B'inan Bayis Arei L'dira for the Erev. V'shit of HaMavai Einei Elo L'tzayif HaChatzeres V'Chatzeres Lav Dira Ninu V'Hilkach Le'Bai Dira Elo Ba'avir Shal Chatzer Dayai Uv'Makayim Mishtamer V'Yukol HaChatzeres Kulan Kilu Tashmishan L'yos Echad. Okay, back to the Gemara, which was still finishing its sentence. It's not like Gara Mechatzer Shiva Mavai. It's not Mishnah and Eruvin. Eruve Chatzeros Bechatzer. Where do you put the Eruv in a Chatzer? We'll see what that means. Shiva Mavoi, the sheet of Mavoi is B'Mavoi. V'Avinam Bon, we ask on this. Eruve Chatzeros Bechatzer. You put the Eruv to join the whole Chatzer into one. You put that in the Chatzer. Someone who puts his Eruv not in a house, but in something that's like a Beishar is an entranceway. A Chsadra is an Excedra, like a sunroom type thing. Umer Pesas would be the balcony for people to get to their house. That is not good. That's not a good. The Erev is not kosher. And someone who lives in one of those things and doesn't donate to the Erev is not going to make problems for them because none of this is housey. Oh, haha. Meanwhile, I'm waiting for Rashi to say something, and Rashi says me minter, and we didn't get up to that in the Gemara. We're never going to get up to that in the Gemara because we're never going to get up to that in the Gemara because Rashi says, "V'minter leigar sinan." Dimshim netirusa, tani tirusa ba'u. V'ayd b'chatzer minter hu b'kli umi erev parach debaya beis dira kan muchach lekamon. So our question of eruv chatzer b'chatzer, we're not asking that it is unguarded there because Shituf would also need that. And it is guarded. The problem is that Erev shouldn't be in the Chatzer. The Erev that was collected from the people in the Chatzer. So the people in the Chatzer gathered bread from each house. But they put their Erev in the entrance way. Hainu bayis katan shlifnei shar chatzer. Oyim v'fneim oyim b'chutz v'shem Pesach yeshiv sham. I'm not going to make one now. Shabbos is coming too soon. But at the end of the chatzer, like a little toll boothy thingy, there's a guard there, either inside the chatzer or outside the chatzer. But you put your eruv there, it's not one of the houses of the chatzer, so it's not going to be a good eruv. Rashi continues, portico, marpasas aliyah arucha apnei chatzer apnei rishos harabim. It's a long balcony going across the chatzer on its rishos harabim side. Uvopsachim harbin is those are the doors. Lefi mechitzei seha. Lefi. It's weird. I'm actually totally confused about this Rashi. Aliyah arucha apnei chatzer apnei rishos harabim v'psachim harbin lefi mechitzei seha v'durim b'chol achas v'achas. V'oisim merpeses arucha lifnei ha'psachim ka'erech aliyah v'kulan oilim b'sulam echlam merpeses v'derech merpeses t'nklasim v'yetzin kulan merpeses aliyah sulam askala. Okay, Rashi's. We did this in Eruvin. Go look at those Face Daf Live videos and you'll see it in Eruvin. There's a balcony and there's people who are living on an upper level and you have to climb up a ladder to get to the balcony and you put your Eruv there. It's also not a good Eruv. Okay. Weiter gegangen. So we were asking, you can't put your Eruv in a chatzer. Ela ema Eruv chatzer is bebayis shebechatzer. When it says bechatzer, it means in the thingy that is in the chatzer. You set it up. V'shtufim bevois bechatzer shebemavoy and shitufei mavois. Not that they're in the mavoy, they're in a chatzer of the mavoy, and therefore putting it in that house is no worse than putting it in the chatzer itself. Continues the Gemara. You can't make it it does not connect to cities. Right? This little house is not going to be an ibor to connect them. We're not even going to treat it like a pathetic hut. Here, let's make a pathetic hut. Okay. Here we have a little hut that the guard sits in, and that would combine the cities. But this is not even like that. My time of Burganin the Burganin thing is fit for what it is, something pathetic to sit in and guard the fruits without this getting too sunned. But as a house, that thing absolutely does not qualify. Okay. Look, Rashi. Oh, we skipped Rashi. Allah. That's why Amr Pesas is not going to be good for an Erev. Burganin is a tzrif, a hut, mean arava v'kanim, that are made out of willow and other sticks. L'sheimrei peiros, or maybe the arava is woven around the kanim. L'sheimrei peiros, for people who are guarding fruits, either side of the oifes, people who are catching birds, trapping birds. Burganin, Miss Abrin Ima, they will join the city together. L'milsayo, they're going to be good for their thing. The Gemara continues. Brothers or partners are not going to divide it. Taima, the less beidal amis. Well, that's only because it doesn't have 4 amis. So is beidal amis cholken? You're saying that if it had 4 amis, then one partner can say, okay, I insist we divide it up. Each of them needs to have their own, enough for each of them. Meaning, a chatzar, the minimum is 4 amas. You need an 8 amma chatzar for one of them to say, I want to divide it for each of us, because then each of us gets 4. The Gemara says, no. It doesn't have the halachos of this qualifies as a house open up into a chutzner when you divide it by chutzner. The Rav Huna chutzner lefi psocheh mischalekes. This is machlekes in Bava Basra about dividing up a chutzner, and do you get it based on you get a certain amount. If you're dividing a chutzner equally, before you divide its area equally, you get a credit for every entrance that you have open up into it. Rav Huna says it's based on the openings. Rav Chisda Omar, nice thing they call Pesach uPesach Arba Amais Vashar. Oh, sorry. Rav Huna says you divide it according to openings, not that. Rav Huna is saying the number of doors I have into it versus the number of doors you have into it is the ratio of how we divide it. And Rav Chisda says not as extreme. Each door is going to take off the top 4 amas of the chatzar. Ve'ashar, what's left? Cholken. V'shar cholken and so b'shavin. You divide the rest evenly. When does that whole machlekes come up? A bias. To the mihavi koi, it's a house that's there for doing stuff and being. Yavin alei chatzar. It will get. It's going to stay, and we'll give you a chatzar corresponding to it. Hi, this pathetic nothing house to the Mr. Kai, it's going to be destroyed. Lo yavin le chatzar. We're not going to say you get chatzar for it because it's a nothing. It's like Rashi. Hachigam and din by chaluk b'chatzar umav din chaluka k'rafuna v'rav chista chatzar mischalakas v'psacheh chatzar shehayu. Oh, so now we can pull in the pictures. What? Where the pictures go? Here we go. Okay. Chatzrei batim psuchim lavachol kua shnei achin beineim zenatal shleisha batim ketanim zenatal connected by his gadol. One took 3 little houses on the left, and one took 1 big house. After now they divide up the houses. Now they want to divide up the chutzner between them. Then the one who took 3 houses gets 3/4 of the chutzner. The one who took only 1/4 of the houses gets only 1/4 of the chutzner, even though it's a huge house. The chutzner is for coming and going. And you bring your loads in, parking. It's to be okay. I feel maybe I have a memory of the Rashash talking about this. I'll do it after. You take 4 amais from the door and out. How wide is it? However wide the door opening is. Fine. You'll take 4 amais in width. Sorry, not in width. It's the width is 10, but 9 in depth. But this pathetic nothing house that's less than 4 amais. It's not going to get anything. It's not going to help get anything in the chutzner. When do we say the shakal chelik b'chutzner? A bias to the mihavikai house is going to be there. You're going to need the chutzner for your stuff. This is going to end up being destroyed. Something's just like in my memory. When I was in Scranton, we learned Sukkah after Bava Basra, and I remember when I learned this sugya in Sukkah, something didn't sit right. I felt like it wasn't going with the sugya of Bava Basra, and the Rashash talked about it. And I wonder if it's the question of doorways versus full houses. Let's see the Rashash over here. No. Okay. No. That's not what he's talking about. Okay. So, forget that. And, Shkayach, to be continued, Mitzvah Shabbos, Mitzvah Hashem.